conversations happen, I'd like to be able to demonstrate a little bit of what we're really up against and what this really looks like in practical terms. I brought a chart with me here to be able to talk about, when we talk about women's health. Because there's been this accusation that's sitting out there that this is about cutting off access to women's health. The chart that I have here, the one on the right here, shows all the Planned Parenthood licensed mammogram facilities. They'd be a dot on this map. If you're looking close to the map, you would see no dots on it. It's clear, there's not a single one. And the accusation is over and over again, if women are going to get access to mammograms, they have to be able to get to Planned Parenthood. The dirty secret is they refer to other locations. They recommend that you go get a mammogram, but Planned Parenthood doesn't do any of them. On the left here, these are the 8,000 plus facilities here on the dots on the map here where you can actually get a mammogram. We're talking about taking funding from a location that refers to it to the location that actually does the mammogram. This is about women's health, but it's also about the health of children. And I have a very difficult time talking about things like early childhood education on this floor with individuals that are passionate about early childhood education. But if that child was just a couple of years younger, they would have no issue with them being aborted and their body parts being sold. That's the same child. That is the same child that we're passionate about their early childhood education. That's the same child that we're passionate about the women and infant and children funding to make sure they get proper nutrition at birth. That is the same child. The only difference between that child in the womb and the child that's a preschooler is time. We just think it's extremely important in this incredibly divisive issue of abortion that we treat this seriously as a nation. And what has happened in the last couple of weeks with the Planned Parenthood videos coming out is, for the first time in a long time, this is not an invisible thing that's happening somewhere in secret. Now it is something that's actually happening where people can see it. And I think our culture, for the first time in a while, is having to slow down and deal with the reality of, is it possible that this culture has been wrong, that that really is a child? I talked last week to a friend of mine that his child was born a year ago at 14 ounces. 14 ounces was their birth weight. Born very, very premature. Their child is now 14 pounds a year later and doing extremely well. That 14-ounce child is a child that everyone sees now. But that 14-ounce child is exactly what Planned Parenthood was harvesting, was turning in the womb so they could crush the head and to be able to gather the organs to be able to sell. We as a culture have got to deal with this one simple reality. That child is important. This is not about Cecil the lion. This is not about whales at SeaWorld. This is about children. And maybe we as a culture should slow down and be able to answer that one simple question. But at least for this moment with Planned Parenthood, to say to an organization where there are a couple things that are hanging over them right now that are very serious. One is, it's not legal under federal law to sell the parts of a human for profit. Now, that's still yet to be determined what was done. But it's also not legal to be able to change the timing, procedure, or method of an abortion to be able to gather organs to be sold. That is very clear in federal law as well. So if the method is changed, if the timing is changed, if the procedure is changed specifically to harvest organs, that's not legal. And in the videos over and over again, you hear doctors talking about how they changed the method, how they used the ultrasound to turn the child around, how they used a different technique than they would have normally done because they wanted to be able to gather these organs for sale. Those are serious accusations. These are children. We think it's entirely reasonable to say, let's take the funding that has been committed to Planned Parenthood, who is the single largest abortion provider in the country. 40% of their revenue comes from the federal taxpayer. 40%. For the single largest provider of abortion in the country to stop and to say, let's take that funding let's commit it to organizations that do full women's health, mammograms, testing, contraceptives, the works. Not just recommending it to others and also do abortions, but that we would commit it to those individuals. With that, I'd like to be able to yield to the